This is Shalom World Podcast.
Philosopher and retreat facilitator Ryan Beaupré explores the mysteries surrounding the one God, known as Yahweh. We look into the concept of conversion, the power of creation, and the influence of Saint Francis of Assisi in shaping our understanding of the Creator.
Welcome to Words of Wisdom. My name is Ryan Beaupré. I'm a philosopher living at the Way of Holiness Retreat Center here, and I facilitate retreats and help out around the property. My favorite topic as a philosopher is God. I think we don't talk enough about God in the spiritual life, as funny as that is. We talk about our health, and we talk about the things we're concerned about, and we're talking about the liturgy, and we're talking about church politics, and we're talking about our problems in life. But do we, in fact, talk about God, who at the end of the day is what this is all about? We're going to have an 8-part series here at Words of Wisdom on this topic. Who is God? What is he like? Why should I care about God? And so on and so forth. To start us off, I want to read to you from one of my favorite books, Saint Anselm's Proslogion, written in the 1000s. And this is how it starts. Come now, O insignificant man. Leave behind for a time your preoccupations. Seclude yourself for a while from your disquieting thoughts. Turn aside now from heavy cares. Set aside your wearisome tasks. Make time for God. Rest a while in him. Enter into the inner chamber of your mind. Shut out everything except God and what is of aid to you in seeking him. After closing the chamber door, seek him out. Speak now, my whole heart, speak now to God. I seek your countenance, O Lord, do I seek. Come now, Lord my God, teach my heart where and how to seek you, where and how to find you. If you're not here, O Lord, where shall I seek you who are absent? But if you're everywhere, why do I not behold you as present? You dwell in light inaccessible, but where is light inaccessible? How shall I approach light inaccessible? Who will lead me to this light so that I may behold you? Never have I seen you, O Lord my God. I do not know your face. What shall this exile do? What shall I do, O most exalted Lord? What shall your servant do, anguished out of love for you, cast far from your face? I pant to see you, but your face is too far removed from me. I desire to approach you, but your dwelling place is inaccessible. I desire to find you, but I do not know your abode. Have you folks ever had those moments? Maybe you're sitting on a quiet lake, maybe you're looking out over a cliff, and you just have those moments of silence where you want God and you don't know how to find him. You don't know what it means to seek God, but you know that you're supposed to. One of my favorite things to do is visit elementary schools and junior high schools and let kids in religion classes ask all of their questions. And the most common question is, of course, who made God? If God made everything, who is he? Who made him? Or, where is God? Can I find him with a telescope? Is he next to Jupiter? What does God look like? Is he old? Does he have a beard? One time I was in a grade 1 classroom, and I was trying to teach these kids that you can't see God. That's not the type of thing he is. And so I asked the kids, hey everybody, what does God look like? And one puts up his hand and he says, God lives at the church. The next one says, God has a beard. I'm like, okay, not bad. Anybody else? And then this one kid in the back of the room, his eyes light up and you could tell he figured something out. So he puts his hand up and he says, God is like 1,000 stars all burning at once. My heart melted and I didn't know how to react to this kid. Holy, what's that? Let's think about that for a moment. Here's what I do with my elementary kids, everybody. This is a box. Do you see the box? Do you believe it's a box? Okay. What I'd like you all to do is imagine that in this box is everything. Everything you've ever encountered. Everything you've ever seen or touched or heard or tasted. All the people you've met, every dog, every tree, every star, 2 trillion galaxies worth of universe. Time, from the beginning to its end, is all in the box. Okay? Are you imagining that? Are you imagining creation as such? I'll get the kids to do this, and then I'll ask, is God in the box? If I looked in the box, would there be Jupiter over there, and my dog Ezra there, and a house there, and then there's God? No, of course not. God, having created all that is not in creation. Rather, God is outside the box. He's outside of anything we've ever experienced. Continue to think about that more. When you have an elementary kid ask, who made God? That's a very, very good question. Your response isn't, oh, stop asking difficult questions. But rather, no kid. Coming into being made, starting, that's something in the box. That's something in creation. If time is in the box, if time is something created, then God, the creator, can't be in time. That doesn't make sense. The maker of time didn't have a beginning or an end, or doesn't pass through time in the way that we do. This is what we mean when we say God is eternal. Or once again, where is God? Can you find him for me, as Anselm so desperately wants to know? But the question doesn't make any sense, because where, being in a particular location, that's inside the box. That's how created things operate. Once again, what does God look like? Is he an old man with a beard? No. This is what we teach very, very small children. But rather, God, having made visible things, is not himself visible. God is the infinite, eternal, everlasting source and cause of all that is, and as such is not himself one of the things that are caused. That's pretty hefty philosophy, I know, but it's important to get this right. You will never see God with your eyes. The first letter of John tells us as much. No one has ever seen God, because that's not the type of thing that God is. Asking, where is God? Or when did he start? Or what does he look like? Is like asking, what color is the number 2? It doesn't make any sense. That's not the type of thing the Creator is. Okay, so that's a lot of what he's not. But to know what God is, we have to consider Scripture. Do you remember that marvelous line in the book of Exodus, where Moses is chasing some sheep and he finds a burning bush at Mount Sinai? This bush is on fire, but yet is not consumed, and he hears God speaking out of the fire. And Moses asks, "Oh God, what is your name? What can I tell the Israelites? Who sent me?" And God gives his famous response, "I am the one who is." Yahweh. The tetragrammaton is the 4-letter word that God answers with, but you don't need to know that. I am the one who is. Now, often biblical scholars say that God is saying, you can't put me in a box, you can't contain me. But the way the philosophical tradition takes this up, starting with St. Basil in the 300s, but moving all the way into the medieval period with St. Thomas Aquinas, is that God, the source of being, is sheer being. Sheer being. Being itself. Esse ipsum per se subsistens in Latin. I am the one who is. Another translation of the word that God says when Moses asks his name would be, I am the one who will be, or I am the one who was. I will be the one who was. It's tenseless. It goes in all directions. And it's simply the Hebrew word for to be. I am the one who is. God is everything all at once while not being something created. This is what it means to be infinite being, right? So I myself, Ryan, Beaupré here in Hinton, Canada. I take up a certain amount of space. I'm limited. I have flesh like this, and I'm not made up of wood like a tree is. There's things that I am, and there are things that I am not. Sort of, I'm finite, right? I'm limited. I'm a certain type of thing. But God is not a type of thing, but is rather the cause of all of it all at once, and there is nothing He is not. So take all of your terms for excellent things. That tree over there, that tree's alive and it's awesome. Ramp that up to hundreds and you can apply it to God in a loose way. That tree's alive, so God is very much alive. Or you can say that rocks are great. The Rocky Mountains, for example, are great. They're good things. They're strong. They're big. And we can kind of take those and we ramp them up to the nines and we think, then God is really great, really good, really big. And all these words kind of work. We're taking created things and we know that the Creator is like created things times a million. What is God? God is sheer being, the source and cause of everything that exists. God is outside the box, unlike created things in their limitation, but like created things in that everything that is an image of Him. What do we do with all of this? Ryan, in Hinton, Alberta, Canada, who cares if God is this infinite cause of things? How does that affect me? How does that matter to me? I think the most important thing that we can get on reflecting on the nature of God is that there's no competition with Him. There's no competition with God. The biggest theme, it seems to me, in the Old Testament, in the first half of the Bible, is that there is only one God. And whenever the Israelites start worshiping anything else, things start to fall apart. Think about what we just said about the nature of God. Of course, there can't be more than one infinite cause of being. That seems very silly. There can't be two sheer being itself. That seems very silly too. But what we humans tend to do, and what the Israelites tended to do throughout the scriptures, is take a created thing, take something that's in the box, and call that thing God. They look at a beautiful river like this and they think, that river is wonderful. I'm going to worship it as if it's the cause of other things. But only God is the cause of things. That sounds silly to us, but take the other things in your life, created goods that you consider to be God's. How much do you pursue money and honor and power and pleasure and fame? But these things are limited created goods in the box. They're not God. Never make that mistake. There is only one God. Let's reflect a moment on the most important commandment in the Old Testament, the Shema. The Israelites would repeat this prayer every Sabbath day. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad in Hebrew. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Remember, O Israelites, there is only one God. Only one. That word echad, sometimes it's translated as there is only one God, or God is alone might also work. There is no one like our God. Hold that in your heart, that commandment. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. To see how this gets put in practice, let's consider the life of one of the most famous of saints, Saint Francis of Assisi. As I'm sure many of you know, Saint Francis lived in the 1100s, 1200s, in the early medieval period. He lived in Italy, in Assisi, obviously, and his father was a rich merchant. That means Francis grew up with all the opportunities and pleasures that life could give him. He could have had a great career in his father's business, selling fabrics especially. The Crusades were going on, and at one point Francis thought, I'm going to be a crusader and gain military honor and glory. And his father pays for his suit of armor and gets him ready to go to war. He quits that. In his early 20s, he floats around a number of things. He loved music, He was a bit of a bard. He would go around singing songs on his lyre and such. So he had all the opportunities of life presented to him, and he pursued many of those opportunities for a time. However, as he pursues these things, he recognizes, and I'm sure this was weighing on his heart for many years before his actual conversion, that none of these things are God, and that none of these things actually satisfy his heart. There's a famous scene early on in the conversion of St. Francis of Assisi. His father is frustrated that Francis of Assisi had this conversion and was living as a beggar and hanging out with lepers and the poor and the sick around his town, often living in the bush. His father said, "I'm going to sue my son, and I demand that he gives me back every penny he owes, or that he comes back home," or something along these lines. It was a public scandal. So there's a famous scene in the middle of this lawsuit between Francis and his father. Francis is brought to the town square in front of everybody, and his father's demanding that Francis pay back what he owes him. What Francis does is he takes the very clothes off of his back and throws them at his father's feet and says, "My debt's paid," and he runs out of the town into the forest. By all accounts, a bit of a weirdo. But what Francis is doing in this moment is he's letting go of any worldly goods and is admitting that nothing is God except the one true God. I refuse to worship anything else. In saying God is one thing we should add is it's not simply that there are no other gods, but God himself is entirely simple, we say in philosophy. There's no division, there's no complexity within him. So if you take myself, you have parts, right? I've got a hand over here and a hand over there and a foot, and there's a bunch of atoms in me, and I have lots of thoughts about lots of different things, and I'm a divided creature. I'm all over the place, right? That's what it means to be a creature, is to have parts. But God himself does not have any parts. He simply is. He simply is. There's nowhere that God is not. There's no part of God that's greater than another. Nothing like this. He simply is in perfect unity. My favorite image of this is a perfectly still lake. Obviously, there's still parts in a lake. That's why it's an image. It's an analogy. But you look at the surface of the lake, and everything is completely harmoniously united. It simply is. Take that as your image of the one God, an entirely still and pristine lake in the Canadian Rockies. Friends, when we admit that God is God and that nothing else is God, we have joy, we have freedom, and we join into the divine love from which the stars flow.
I invite you to carry these insights with you, allowing them to deepen your understanding of faith and enrich your spiritual journey. May the wisdom we've explored together inspire you to seek a deeper relationship with God in your daily life. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of faith, and may you continue to be guided by the light of God's love. Until next time, may peace and blessings be with you.
Shalom World Podcasts is now available on all online platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others.